Hey guys, welcome to Travel Feels. Today we have an interesting day. Something new came in the mail. It's the GH5. Wait a second. I've been using the GH4 on and off since it came out, and it was an awesome camera when it came out. So I was really excited when they announced the GH5 and some of the new specs in this camera. So I thought I would get it, test it out. This is not a sponsored video. I'm gonna be super honest about everything. If there's something crappy about the camera, I'm gonna tell you, and if there's something really good about the camera, I will also tell you that. So let's unbox this thing. And there it is, the GH5. It's a little bit bigger, a little bit heavier than the GH4. Not a bad thing necessarily. LCD is about the same size. I don't know, is it bigger, guys? Yep, LCD screen, same size. But this has some new features like 10-bit 4K, it has 60p 4K, 120 frames, I think up to 180 frames is it in 1080? But that didn't look so good, but the 120 looks really good on this camera. Excited to test that out. Same batteries as before. I really like that. I don't like buying new batteries. Got one of these really fast cards. I think it needs a pretty fast SD card. Dual SD slots, that's pretty cool, pretty handy. It will record from one to the next and then hot swap them out. So in theory, you could record forever. I like to use Metabone speed boosters instead of using Panasonic lenses or Micro Four Thirds lenses. I can just stick on my Canon lenses with this, and it actually makes the lenses faster and a little bit wider, which is pretty sweet. So this is gonna be my setup for the next trip. I'm gonna be going to Whistler again. I'm going with my friend Alan Palander. He's an Instagrammer. You might remember the video we did with him on stepping up your Instagram. We're gonna be going out there, just hanging out. It's gonna be a really good time. And I'm gonna test out the GH5 at the same time. So I'm gonna do a couple different videos, testing out its different features, different functions, and giving you the real raw review of this camera and what I think about it, and whether it's good for you. So everything from now on will be filmed on this. the amazing people at Cliff Bar. We had an amazing time at Whistler during the World Ski and Snowboard Festival. We just had a really good time. There was a bunch of super cool people there. We got to stay in a really nice chalet, snowboard, eat amazing food, get massages, all kinds of fun stuff. Huge thanks to Cliff Bar for hooking us up with this little trip. And thanks to Alan for taking me on this trip. I had so much fun. Ever since the GH4 came out, I've been shooting with that. So I was really excited when the GH5 came out. And I've just been waiting to get my hands on this thing. And I really wanted to test out the camera in a real world scenario. You can look at specs and the different features of a camera, but you can't really know what a camera is like until you use it in a real world scenario. You take it out on a shoot, you start filming with it, you see what are the positives, what are the negatives, and you start seeing if this is a good camera for you or not. So here are my first impressions of the GH5. I really want to go in depth and use it a little bit more and go through some different things, but this will be part one of the review of the GH5 and what I thought about it so far. And one of the things I was really interested was the slow motion, especially at 120 frames per second. It goes all the way to 180 frames, but it's not quite as good quality. The 120 frames though, super nice. I was really impressed with it. A really nice clean image, really smooth, good slow motion. Not every camera, even if they do the same frame rates, looks the same in slow motion. I found this slow motion in the GH5 to just be really nice. I was really impressed with it, and that's one of the big reasons why I got the GH5 was for its slow motion. I'm hoping that this will be my travel camera. When I go on travel shoots, I want a small, nice, compact camera with just a lot of stuff packed in. So this thing can do 60 frames in 4K, it can do 120 frames in HD, really high quality. So a lot of the footage that you saw was filmed in 120 frames per second, just because I really wanted to test that out and see what that's like. So first big positive, slow motion, amazing on the GH5, really impressed with it. Secondly, the image stabilization, I actually found it to be really good. I wouldn't say it's as good as, for example, the image stabilization on the Olympus EM1 Mark II, but it's really good. And I found that it didn't wobble as much as, let's say, the Olympus, just because the Olympus has such a powerful image stabilization built in. You are going to get a little bit more of the wobble. I didn't find as much of that on the GH5, which is a big positive in my mind. So yeah, image stabilization, really good, way better than the Sony's. Just really nice. The Sony's only has just a little bit of image stabilization. This was much better than the Sony's, and obviously the GH4 doesn't have any, so huge step up there. Really liking that. Flip LCD screen, I'm always talking about the flip LCDs. I love it. I think every camera should have one, and it's a really nice quality LCD screen. I found it to be really easy to focus with. You could see what's in focus and what's not. Compared to some other cameras, for example the Sony's, you just cannot see anything on those screens. They suck and they don't flip out. They only kind of fold up or down. Flip LCD screen, super handy. I love it. I really like that you can just be shooting 120 frames per second handheld and get nice smooth shots still, even though you're shooting handheld. It's just really nice to have that feature of 120 frames per second, or even slower if you want to go that far. Battery life, just like the GH4, the battery life is amazing on this camera. I only ever went through 1 or 2 batteries in one day, which is amazing. Going back to the Sony's, their battery life sucks. I hate having to carry around so many batteries and constantly be changing them. I just want it to last. I would rather have a little bit bigger battery like the GH5 and have it last for a long time, which this does. Huge positive in my books, especially for travel stuff. I don't want to be changing batteries and carrying a bunch of batteries around. This is a good camera for battery life. The GH5 also has some really nice pro video features, stuff that you would only really see in pro video cameras, not these small DSLR type cameras. For example, it shoots log, so it has a V-log profile, which is Panasonic's log profile, so it's nice and flat. But when you're shooting in log, it's sometimes really hard to see where the focus is and and to see what the image is looking like because it just looks so flat and so desaturated. Well, on the GH5, you can monitor through a LUT. So what this means is that you can be recording and log into the camera, so you have all that extra information for your post-processing, but while you're filming, you can actually see it through a LUT. So it doesn't look like log while you're filming, so you can actually see what you're focusing on and what the overall image is looking like, without just having that gross log look that you just can't see anything. There's no saturation and no contrast at all. So that's a really big feature. None of the other small DSLR cameras can do that, which is a thing that the Sonys desperately need. Because of the crappy LCD screens, you can barely see what's in focus or what's going on when you're filming in S-Log. So this would be a huge thing for the Sonys. I don't know why they haven't implemented it, but the GH5 has it. You can monitor using a LUT and still be recording a log image. That's a really big deal for me, at least. That helps me huge when I'm filming. I want to be able to see what's going on and not just be looking at a log image all the time. The GH5 also has some other pro video features like waveform and vector scope. The waveform is something that I use constantly whenever I have it, but on the GH5 it's a bit of a downer because the waveform is just so gigantic that it takes up almost the whole screen, so you can't really be filming and have it on at the same time. Also, I noticed that when you're filming in the Vlog color space, the waveform isn't quite accurate. It clips it way before the 100 level mark, which is where the white should be blowing out. So you gotta be careful with that if you're looking at the waveform. But it is a really nice feature to have in your camera so that you have a little bit more information on what's going on in your image. Now with a camera like this, you're not gonna get the most amazing color science. So I did notice some funny stuff going on with the colors, and I'm not quite convinced on the 10-bit codec. I'm not sure if it's actually quite 10-bit. I'd like to do some more tests comparing the 8-bit and 10-bit, but I'm not really seeing much of a difference. And there should be a difference between the two. So that's kind of an interesting thing. I don't really know what's going on. I've seen some other videos on this, but I don't think anybody's really figured out what the deal is. But having 10-bit in a small format camera is amazing. So I'm hoping everything is okay there, and it's just one of those things where you don't really notice how big of a difference it is until you start color grading and manipulating the image more. Also, another downside of the GH5 is that the footage is really heavy on your editing programs. I tried to drag and drop the footage and it just didn't work very well at all in Premiere. Tons of skipping, tons of lagging, just impossible to edit with on a laptop at least. So you are gonna need to convert to ProRes if you're editing on a laptop or anything that's not a really powerful computer. So that's something to keep in mind. It's not a huge thing. You should be converting into ProRes anyways, but it is another step if you're not used to that. But in ProRes, you'll have no problems. The footage will work perfectly. So far, I'm really loving the GH5. It's an amazing camera, and I'm really happy with it so far, but I do need to test it out some more to see what are the real strengths and what are some of the weaknesses of the camera, which will indefinitely come up when I use the camera more and more. You just start seeing those things that annoy you, but you also start finding those things that you really love about the camera. So far, I'm seeing that this is a perfect camera if you want to do a lot of video work, but you don't want to spend a ton of money on a camera. It just has a lot of amazing features, and the image looks really nice, and it's just an easy to use camera, just an all-in-one small package. I'm really liking it so far. I am going to be doing some more reviews on the GH5, so if you have any questions, make sure you comment down below and I'll try to answer some of those questions on the next parts of the GH5 review. I hope you enjoyed this little review. If you're looking into the GH5, I hope this gave you a different perspective on the camera. And so far, I'm giving the camera 2 thumbs up. It's just a really nice one, so definitely consider it for yourself. Test it out, see if it's a good fit for you. That's it for me, guys. Enjoy the filmmaking process and go make some of those travel feels.